I opened the tank expecting the fluorescent ceiling of the university lab and the exasperated face of Dr. Raines reminding me I was late on copy. Instead, I stepped out naked, dripping brine, into a corridor drowned in gray dusk. The overhead lights were on, but they looked sick, as if some painter had scraped their color away. My ears rang with the same thundering silence I'd endured for 72 hours inside the sensory deprivation vat. Only I wasn't in the vat anymore. Outside, the world should have been swollen with noise. Grad students humming pumps, rumbling traffic on Jefferson Avenue. Nothing. I called out. My own voice was a wisp, a suggestion of syllables. I heard it in my bones more than in my ears, as if the air refused to carry vibration. I blinked hard, rubbed the salt from my eyes. The hallway remained desaturated, trembling at the edges like a corrupted file. When I tried to smell the formaldehyde tang that always clung to the neuroscience wing, my nostrils delivered blankness. The memory of odor, but not the thing itself. Sensory shutdown was exactly what the experiment had been designed to replicate. A temporary disconnection to study the brain's predictive circuitry. But I'd signed on because I could flee anytime. Now that I was out of the tank, I wanted all my inputs back. Instead, a melody threaded through the silence. I didn't hear it so much as feel it, a whisper along the skin of my inner ear. A lullaby, simple, 4 notes ascending then resolving down, the kind of tune parents hum when they've forgotten the words. It seemed to originate behind my sternum, pulsing faintly, luring me forward like a tide. I found clothes in a storage closet, tugged on jeans and a campus hoodie, and padded downstairs. The afternoon sun should have glared through the glass atrium, but the light outside was a bruise-colored smear. Figures moved beyond the doors, staggering through the courtyard. The first person I reached, a graduate assistant named Lionel, didn't react when I grabbed his arm. His eyes were glazed, pupils blown wide like a corpse's, irises leached of hue. Yet he kept walking, mouth hanging open, muttering along with the lullaby no one else could hear. I stepped into his path. He bumped me, unfocused, and kept going. Panic scratched upward in my throat. I sprinted across the courtyard. Everyone I passed, dozens, was the same. Vacant, colorless, obedient. They trudged in a single direction, down Jefferson, toward the glass spire of the Helixis Corporation headquarters that pierced the city skyline like a chrome stake. Helixis, pharmaceutical behemoth, biotech darling, perpetual target of investigative pieces I'd tried and failed to pitch. Its logo, interlocking spirals, was etched into every bus shelter in town. I pulled out my phone. No signal, not even emergency bands. The device might as well have been a polished stone. Whatever happened, I told myself, it happened fast. And the only thing people seemed to want now was whatever waited inside Helixis's tower. I set out after them, because a journalist follows the story, and because I didn't dare be alone with the hush, and the march grew denser, closer to downtown. Commuters in rumpled suits, kids still in homeroom uniforms, an entire wedding party, with the bride's train darkened by city grime. Their faces were smooth, with something beyond resignation, a bliss as thin as candle smoke. The lullaby guided their synchronized footfalls, and now I could separate notes. An E-flat that tremored at the edges of human hearing. Beneath the tune hid a coded rhythm, irresistible as hunger. I attempted questions, waving my press badge, Maya Cabot, City Sentinel, but people brushed past. The absence of true sound created odd moments. Shoes kissed pavement without scuff. A toppled fruit stand bled oranges that rolled utterly silent across asphalt. On 14th Street, a woman broke from the crowd. She staggered into a cafe, overturning chairs, knocking a silent server to the ground. She gripped her head and screamed, or tried to. No voice emerged, only the shape of anguish. The lullaby faltered in my chest, as if her rebellion jarred the frequency. Before she could reach the back door, 2 Helixis security officers pushed inside, black-suited, visored, moving like well-oiled engines. They seized her gently, almost tender, and as soon as their gloved palms touched her temples, she went slack. They steered her out, merging with the procession. I trailed the guards at a distance. While citizens wore whatever they'd been in when the world turned ghostly, these men displayed color. Crimson trim on their collars, gold insignia on the visors. Somehow they preserved pigments the rest of us had lost. Outside a shuttered hardware store, I glimpsed something else. An elderly man crouched over a portable ham radio set balanced on milk crates. He twisted knobs with arthritic precision. Static hissed from the speaker reel, audible. I could hear that scratch of white noise the way children hear secrets adults forgot. I knelt. "Sir, can you hear me?" He glanced up, startled. When I touched his shoulder, he recoiled, then realized I existed. Up close, he looked half-drowned, eyeballs watering against the brightless day. "You too?" he mouthed. I nodded. He scrawled in a little notebook. "Partial immunity?" I wrote back. "Was in sensory tank. You?" He pointed at earplugs dangling round his neck. "Industrial grade." "Welding shop." His whisper was barely a ghost, but it reached my drum. He scribbled again. "Helixis broadcast. Turned off everything. Thinking shielded me. Short range." "Broadcast what?" I asked. He spun the tuning dial. Amid the hiss, the lullaby leaked through the speaker mechanical flaw. Seeing me flinch, he killed the power. "Carrier wave piggybacking on commercial spectrum," he wheezed. "They wiped auditory, visual, olfactory stimuli with broadband neuroinhibitors. Left one signal intact. Theirs. Keeps folks docile, points them home." "Home," I repeated, glancing at the spire. "Why?" "Leverage," he said. "Remove senses, sell them back." His eyes shifted toward the countless bodies moving silent outside. "Catches price steep." "How do you know?" "Intercepted memos." He tapped a laptop wire to the radio. "Facility inside tower boasts. Restore everything if you agree to terms." "What terms?" He exhaled. "Intellectual property. Memories. Patents of the mind. They scan your neural connectome, claim ownership. You get senses. They get you." I felt a chill colder than tank water. Helixis had long lobbied for rights to cognitive capital. Ideas conceived but not yet expressed. Legislation stalled in committee. Maybe they'd stopped waiting. "I need evidence," I said. "If we expose them—" The old man's gaze drifted past my shoulder. Two crimson-trimmed guards strode up the block. He shoved notebook into my palm. "Run." I did, but not before seeing gloved hands seize his radio kit. He went limp, singing without voice as they guided him into the unending column. Discouraged, if one could still call it that, found me beneath the overpass that skirted Helixis Plaza. The corporate tower loomed, every mirrored panel reflecting the city's colorless despair. The procession narrowed into switchback queues feeding 3 entry arches manned by scanners. Each pilgrim presented no ID, no ticket. They only arrived, drawn by the lullaby. Somewhere inside, a machine promised to give them sound, sight, scent. The line curled like a pet around its master. I needed inside. That meant letting the lullaby pull me. I joined a queue, adopting the glassy stare. A guard passed, scanning retinas with a handheld wand. When the beam hit mine, he paused. The visor lifted just enough for me to see irises bright as marbles. True color. He searched my face. Did he recognize lucidity? My pulse hammered. Then he moved on. Eventually the line delivered me to the arch. Metal ribs formed a tunnel. As I crossed the threshold, cold fizzed over my scalp like bubbles carbonating my brain. Screens embedded in the ribs flashed slogans I could read only because I'd memorized them from marketing briefs. Helixis, Resensory experience, your perception perfected. Below, a foot-high disclaimer scrawled, "By entering, you consent to synaptic mapping and transfer of derivative cognitive assets. All rights reserved." Below, certificate of assets. All rights reserved. Security funneled us to elevators. I shared a car with 20 husks swaying to silent music. A digital panel listed only one destination, Level R. The ascent was syrup slow, like the building savored anticipation. At last the doors opened onto a vaulted lobby bathed in actual vivid color. Scarlet banners, magenta orchids exhaling smell. The shock almost floored me. People who'd already passed whatever lay beyond milled here, chatting, laughing, weeping for joy. I heard them, not through bone but through air. They inhaled blossoms, gorged on a buffet whose spices tickled the hallway. Each wore a thin silver circlet around the skull. I forced my gape into a frown of normalcy and drifted among them. A woman in scrubs pinched my sleeve. "First time?" she asked, sound crisp as wind chimes. I made my eyes watery. I'm so scared." That part wasn't acting. "Does it hurt?" "Not at all." Her grin spread. "The interface just scans. When you wake up, it's like someone lifted plastic wrap off reality." She stroked the circlet. "I can smell cardamom again. I can hear my son's laugh." She lowered her voice. "They say price is data, but who cares? Memories are copies. I still have mine." Copies, I thought. Ownership meant Helixes could patent her inventions, her dreams, her flashbacks, spin them into profit while she lived unaware. I scanned the room for exits, spotted a restricted door behind orchids. Before I moved, an announcement chimed audible through hidden speakers. "New batch. Please proceed to intake." Guards shepherded us to glass pods along a curved wall. I was directed into pod 19, sealed off from the lobby. The interior resembled a luxury spa. Recliner, lavender lighting, faint white noise waterfall, the only sound since the lullaby. A voice spoke, female, soothing, piped through implants directly into my auditory cortex. "Welcome, prospective resensory client. For your safety, remain still while we calibrate." A mechanical halo descended from the ceiling, aligning with my crown. I recognized it, the same circlet successful subjects wore. If it latched, Helixes would siphon my brain like a hard drive. I needed minutes, maybe seconds, to sabotage the system and broadcast truth. I pulled the old man's notebook from my pocket, praying the pod cameras couldn't read handwriting at this angle. Scribbles detailed a failsafe. Helixes' lullaby piggybacked on city cell towers. High bandwidth, but fragile. Overload the frequency with counter noise, and the spell would snap. The ham radio rig could do it, but that was gone. Unless I could hijack Helixes' own network from inside. The halo inched lower. I spoke aloud, hoping microphones would pick frustration, not defiance. "Before we start, I have questions." "Certainly," the voice cooed. I needed access to a console. I dropped my consent packet. Lie. "Could you display the terms again?" A wall panel brightened, scrolling legal text. Small, but interactive. Heat blossomed in my stomach. I reached out, feigning difficulty reading. My fingertips brushed the glass. Beneath lay circuitry. Years ago, I'd covered a tech expo where Helixes demoed smart glass, touch-responsible surface with built-in Wi-Fi. Back then, a hacker showed me a back door. 5-finger tap, swipe Z, enter universal passcode. The chemical formula for dopamine. I recalled it because I'd thought the trick too cute to print. I performed the pattern, the panel glitched, swapped to root menu, network, broadcast, sensory filters. My pulse roared in my resurrected ears. Network greater than broadcast. I typed, begin counter stream. A keyboard popped up. Input required audio file. I had none, but the system accepted raw text-to-tone synthesis. I typed a sentence. Helixes stole your senses. They will steal your mind. Resist. I looped it, set amplitude to max, and targeted the same carrier the lullaby used. Then, before hitting send, I toggled sensory filters, discovered sliders for visual modulation, olfactory gating, auditory null. All set to 100%. I pulled them to 0. Pressed execute. Alarms didn't wail. They couldn't while filters suppressed sound. Then red strobes erupted. The halo froze centimeters from my scalp, then retracted. The lullaby inside my bones stuttered, replaced by my own tinny voice repeating the warning. Beyond the pod, muffled chaos. I sprinted to the door. Locked. I'd planned for that. The panel still obeyed. I accessed access control, hit unlock all. Into the corridor. Patients tore circlets free, some laughing hysterically, others vomiting at sudden sensory overload. The world's missing noises rushed back, people sobbing, footsteps clanging, smell returned like a punch, sweat, disinfectant, orchid rot. Security converged, shouting orders drowned by the counter stream. I ducked behind a kiosk as a guard fired a taser at a flailing man. Sparks crackled. Sweet, sweet sound. I needed evidence. The data siphon, the patent's proof. The notebook had coordinates for Helixus's data store, level R2. I dashed for a freight stair, descended 2 flights into a sub-basement humming with servers. Rows of racks blinked amidst refrigerated air. Here, color remained, shielded by EM plating. I approached a terminal. Password prompt. I rubbed sweat off my palms, tried the backdoor pattern. No touch interface. My breath faltered. Then I remembered the halo retracting through ceiling tracks. Devices were networked. My override might still linger. I typed dopamine as password. Enter. Directory opened. Folders labeled by brains. Lionel_Ongyun. Wedding_party_B4. Researcher_Rhines. Meticulous theft. I selected all, hit encrypt plus WINEL. Progress bar crawled. Above, bootsteps approached. A guard swung into aisle. His visor mirrored rack lights. He raised a gun, old-fashioned bullets. I raised hands. Shoot, and every file here corrupts. I lied. He hesitated. Bar hit 93%. Something unexpected happened. The orchid scent in my nostrils sharpened into ozone. Racks vibrated. My counter stream bleeding through building speakers had shifted pitch. Someone tampering. The lullaby started threading back. If they drowned my signal, the puppet strings would reattach. I needed a final push. Look around, I shouted at the guard. You can smell the coolant. You can hear me. That's because I freed you. They'll take it away again. His visor quivered. Maybe he saw advantage in siding with me, or maybe he remembered a stolen childhood lullaby of his own. He lowered the gun. Bar hit 100%. Files vanished. I yanked the hard drive, smashed it under a rack leg. Lights flickered. Time to go, the guard said, voice cracking from disuse. He escorted me upstairs, weapon leveled at oncoming colleagues. Some joined, confused but curious. Others fired. Bullets pinged steel. In the lobby, glass lay like sugar on carpet. Freed citizens flooded exits, senses blazing. Outside, sunlight regained golden warmth. Sirens howled across the city police. Ambulances, real noise. A news drone hovered, lens whirring. My phone buzzed alive with push alerts. Unexplained, citywide outage. Helixus tower under siege. I turned to the guard. You have a name? Elias. Elias, stick around. I'll need a source. He barked dry laughter, then melted into the crowd. Was it half religion? It took 2 days for federal regulators to descend. 3 for emergency rooms to stabilize citizens convulsing from sudden flood of sensation. My editors gave me the front page, but I was too busy to savor victory, fielding calls from Senate committees, human rights lawyers, other newsrooms begging syndication. Helixus's spokespeople claimed rogue engineers acted without sanction, but we'd scrub backups off-site, evidence of board approval, budget lines for Project Quietude. Public fury crescendoed, stock plummeted. Yet boxes of silver circlets vanished before warrants landed. Whispers surfaced of black market clinics where desperate addicts of silence traded memories for clarity. The lullaby, corrupted but not dead, flickered at edges of AM radio upstate. Some nights I heard it slip between frequencies, searching for a new host. I haven't slept in my bathtub since the experiment, unwilling to give darkness that kind of hold. But when the city gets too loud, dump trucks at dawn, couples screaming through apartment walls, I remember the hush, terrifying but pristine, and I shiver at how sweet it almost seemed. I'm writing this not as closure, but as warning. Sensation is bargaining chip now, minted like coin, and somewhere in a warehouse glowing with stolen color, those circlets wait. They know we will crawl across broken sound for the promise of silence, or cross a desert of noise for the promise of music. Helixus understood the craving. I understand it too. Some nights, as I finalize another expose, I catch myself humming four notes. Rise, then fall. I stop, let the tinnitus of truth fill my skull, and keep typing, louder than the lullaby ever was.